Yeah, today I'm doing making a short video for the purpose of the just giving an information about the expense report relating to the projects. So we are already know that first we need to think about that what is an expense report and why it will be needed, why we need to generate the expense report against the project. First three topics I will discuss. First is the expense report. What is an expense report? Expense report is nothing but if anyone employees who are incurring any employees who are incurring any personal expenses on the behalf of the business purposes. It means that they are going for the any some other locations, and in that case what happened that they are incurring personal expenses for the purpose of the business only. They are moving to the another location, they are incurring expenses to take it of the business agent. So in that case, what happened that whatever they incurred their expenses like traveling expenses, accommodation, food expenses, like those expenses, company will be reimbursement to the those employees who incurred any expenses. So in that case, what happened that for every employee maintaining of the employee who incurred the personal expenses on the behalf of the businesses, first they need to raise any expense report in the ERP systems. So then what happened that according to the expense report, we had mentioned the attachments. Attachment nothing but proof of evidence to incur some expenses on the behalf of the businesses, like traveling, boot ticket, liquid tickets, and hotel booking tickets, and bills of the hotels, restaurants. So those are will be required to attach while creating of the expense report. So we are just now what we are understood is first what is an expense report and where it will be need to why we need to create the expense report. And next one more thing, if any employee who incurred creating the expense report, what is normally what happened that in the companies first for the creating of the expense report by the employee, after that certain approvals will be put for the approval of the expense report. After approving of the expense report by some other persons, it will be need to audited by some other person, will be giving an auditing of the expense report whether they are valid or not, or more they are creating expense report more or not. Like this auditing work is also assigned to some other person. So creating of the expense report by an employee, approved by the some other employee, and it will be audited by the some other employee. Then only it will be import the cost to the projects or any other. Then only it will be eligible to reimbursement to the employee only whoever incurred the expenses. So in the real time what happened that expense report is submitted by the one person, approved by the another person, and audited by the some other person, and then only after auditing of the expense report only employee will be eligible to get the reimbursement amount from the company. So what happened that first employee need employee role along with the project team member role. If he is incurred any particular project, then he will creating the expense report. He has one employee role and project team member role for the employee creating of the expense report. So we are giving that employee role and project team member role. Along with that, we need to give the data access for the project employee as a project organization. So if your data access means nothing but particular organization, we are having that organizations in the projects we are already doing those organization access, we need to give that project team member role for the employee. Then only he will be eligible to create the expense report against the project having an organization project organization. So the project team, the data access manage data access for the users, we need to select that username and role is the project team member role, and the selection that project organization classification, we need to give the particular BU expenditure organizations. So he will be eligible to enter the expense report against these project organization for the projects. So here we need to know that who is submitting expense report, who is the approval of the expense report, who is audited, and then what are the rules required, what is the data access given to the employee. Then what we need to do is we need to go with that employee expenses In the expenses, we need to click on the create item. We need to mention the purpose. What is the purpose to create of the these expense report? Then we need to click on the plus icon button. We will create the expense report. While creating the expense report, first we need to mention the date on which date the expense report is created, and along with that, what is the expenditure type. Depends upon the expenditure type only, like travel, accommodation, food, like that we need to select the particular expenditure type, and we need to mention the description. What is the description of the expense report? And then only in that expense report, creating expense report only, it will be automatically mention the account, what is an account for this expense report too. And then we need to give that project details, like project and project task details. We need to put that for the, if any expense report against the project, we need to mention the project. For this project and for this task only, they are incurring some expenses. For those purposes, we're creating the expense report. Like that we need to create the expense report. Then we need to save. Once will be saved, the after saving at the expense report, we need to submit the expense report for the purpose of the approvals. So what we need to do is, after saving up the expense report, we need to search our expense report in the search icon, and we need to click on select up the expense report, which one is the submitting for the approval. Sending the approvals, we need to select and submit the approval. Submit on the click on the submit. What happened that it will be goes to the approval hierarchy. So in that, what happened that we are already creating the approval hierarchy from the BPM worklist. If suppose these expense report incurred by created by any employee, to who is in approval of the this expense report. So we need to, then whoever that approval persons will get in the get into the notification, get a notification. Then whoever the approval person log in their user, and we need to approve of the expense report. Then it will be goes to auditing. Then it will be showing like the status of the expense report will be pending from the audit expense. Next, whoever the having a role of the expense auditor role, he is eligible to audit of the expense reports. So the person having the role of the expense auditor will log in and complete the audit. So here expense report is saved and submitted and approved by some other person. Then whoever the expense auditor role, having that person will be audited already. Then it will be ready for the payment status. So then what happened that we need to run the job called reimbursement of the expenses and cost accrual receipts. Then only it will be, system will be generate the invoice for this expense report. So after running this job, the expense report the invoice against these expense report automatically created in the accounts payable invoice work area. So we need to go with the accounts payable invoice work area. That automatically create the one invoice number. So we need to select that invoices and validate it and create accounting. Here for these invoices regarding of the expense report doesn't require any approvals, because these expense reports are already approved by the and audited by the some other persons. So here doesn't require any approval for these expense report invoices. So just we need to validate it and create accounting for this expense report. Then it will be create accounting. After create accounting, it will be transferred to the projects. While running by the job called import cost, we need to select the transaction source as Oracle Fusion Payables, and document will be referred to as an expense report. We need to select that business unit, time, and along with that date, accrual date. Like this, we need to select that import cost work area. Then it will be, once the job import cost will be done, cost will be added to the particular project. We need to go with the manage project cost. We need to select our project, and which project they are incurring expense report. We need to search with the project number. We can see that here, okay, the cost will be added to our project or not. So this is the entire process for the creating of the expense report. So we are discussing what is an expense report, why we need to create the expense report, who is creating expense report, how it will be creating up the expense report, what are the roles will be required, what is the data access we need to give, and who is the approval persons, who is the auditor, for which job we need to run for creating up the expense report invoices. After creating up the expense report, what we need to do after creating up the accounting of the create accounting for the expense report invoices, how will we get into the project cost for running of the import cost, and we need to validate the particular expense report cost added to the project or not. This is the entire cycle, entire integration between the expense reports to the projects. I hope everyone understand. Thank you for giving me an opportunity. Bye.